I want you to picture something for me: a dimly lit room, one chair, one voice, one truth. That's me right now, sitting in this chair, staring into the dark, finally ready to tell you what I've kept buried for years. If you listen closely, you might even hear the sound of my old life collapsing. Back then I was invisible. Not the cool kind of invisible, the kind where people notice you in your absence. No. I was the kind where people could look right at me and still see nothing. I grew up in a house where the walls were thin and the arguments were loud. My father left when I was 12, leaving behind an empty chair at the dinner table and a stack of unpaid bills. My mother worked 2 jobs, her face aging faster than her years, and her hands rough from cleaning houses that were bigger than our entire apartment block. I wore second-hand clothes that smelled faintly of strangers, shoes with soles so thin I could feel the cracks in the pavement through them. Lunch at school was whatever I could steal from the fridge before my younger brother got to it. You don't know how fast you can disappear until you're poor. People's eyes slide right over you, unless they're looking for someone to laugh at, and they found me. Her name was Samantha Cole. She was everything I wasn't: rich, confident, beautiful in that cruel way that makes you question if someone like that is even human. Her father owned half the businesses downtown, her clothes were fresh off runways, and she carried herself like the air itself bent for her. The first time she spoke to me, I thought maybe she was different. She asked about my shoes. I thought she was being kind. She wasn't. From that day on, I was her favorite joke. She'd wait until everyone was watching before she asked, "So, did you borrow those jeans from a scarecrow? Or do they even let you in the cafeteria with those shoes?" People laughed because it was easier than being her next target, and I laughed too, pretending it didn't hurt. But it did. God, it did. There was one day I'll never forget. A rainy Thursday. The air smelled of wet concrete and diesel fumes from the buses lined up after school. I was waiting under the shelter, my backpack soaked because the zipper had broken weeks ago. Samantha walked up with her friends, all of them holding hot chocolate cups with that smug kind of warmth you only appreciate when you've never gone without. She smiled, that slow, venomous kind, and asked me in front of everyone, "Tell me, do you ever, I don't know, get tired of being you?" They laughed hard. I forced a smile, but something inside me cracked open like a bone snapping. That was the day I decided I wouldn't always be poor. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I'd find a way. Years passed. I worked. God, I worked. Nights in greasy diners, mornings in cramped offices, afternoons doing odd jobs no one else wanted. I saved every cent like it was oxygen. While my friends wasted their paychecks, I invested mine. Little things at first: a vending machine route, a failing laundromat, an online store selling refurbished electronics. I read every book I could on business. Slept 3 hours a night. I didn't just work for money. I worked for power. Because I learned something the day Samantha laughed at me in the rain: money isn't just paper. It's a weapon. By the time I was 28, I wasn't just surviving. I was hunting. My investments grew. One acquisition led to another. And then the opportunity came: a mid-sized marketing company was going bankrupt. The price was a steal. And do you know who worked there? Samantha Cole, the same girl who once laughed at my shoes, the same girl who asked if I was tired of being me. When I signed the papers, I didn't just buy a company, I bought her world, and I wasn't done yet. I started reassigning her projects, giving her the ones no one wanted, the clients who were impossible to please. I paired her with the most incompetent interns, watched her drown in deadlines. She was too proud to complain directly to me, but I could see the strain in her face each morning, and then I began the whispers, subtle, precise. A word here, a suggestion there, she's been missing deadlines lately. She seems distracted. Not sure if she's management material. In an office, rumors are like mold, invisible at first, but deadly once they spread. The thing is, I didn't just want her to suffer. I wanted her to remember why, so one day, as she left the office, I walked past her and said quietly, just loud enough for her to hear, "Do you ever get tired of being you?" Her head snapped toward me, her eyes wide. She knew exactly what I meant. That rainy Thursday from years ago came rushing back, hitting her like cold water down her spine. From that day forward, she avoided me. Wouldn't meet my eyes in meetings. Took her lunch at her desk. Her laugh, that sharp, mocking thing, disappeared completely, but I wasn't close to done. No, I had barely started, because revenge isn't about striking once. It's about building a stage and making sure your enemy realizes they're the star of the tragedy you've written for them. And soon I'd hand her the script. The opportunity came faster than I expected. Her biggest client, a wealthy real estate firm, was on the verge of pulling out due to unsatisfactory results. I made sure they did. Quiet phone calls, subtle delays in her project materials, sending the wrong drafts at accidental times. By the end of the month, they dropped her account completely. The fallout was brutal. The client's exit cost the company hundreds of thousands, and Samantha's name was all over the failure. The office buzzed with whispered blame, and the higher-ups started looking at her differently. She wore that stress like a second skin, dark circles under her eyes, her once perfect hair pulled back in hurried knots, lipstick smudged from chewing her lips. But I wasn't satisfied, not yet. One night, I stayed late. The office was quiet, the hum of the fluorescent lights the only sound. I waited until she left, then slipped into her workspace. Her desk was a shrine to her old life, photos of yacht parties, exotic vacations, a picture of her with her arm around a man whose smile was just as smug as hers used to be. I copied files from her computer, not illegal, not at first glance, but enough to twist. Her emails revealed a pattern: missed meetings, fabricated reports, even a few backhanded comments about the company's direction. I didn't forge anything. I didn't need to. I simply arranged the truth in a way that made her look rotten to the core. The next Monday, I accidentally left a folder on the conference table before a management meeting. By the time I returned, the folder was gone. And by Wednesday, Samantha was called into HR. I watched from my office window as she left that meeting, her face pale, her hands shaking. She didn't look like a queen anymore. She looked cornered, but the real hit came later. Remember the man in the picture on her desk? That was her fiancé. Wealthy. Influential. The kind of man who wouldn't tolerate scandal or public embarrassment. A man who, with the right push, could be made to believe she was more trouble than she was worth. I made sure he got a carefully curated package of her performance records, along with a few anonymous tips about unprofessional behavior with a married client. A rumor I didn't start, but gladly amplified. 2 weeks later, she stopped wearing her engagement ring. That was the moment I saw it, the break. That fragile point where someone realizes the life they thought was untouchable is slipping like sand through their fingers. Still, I wasn't done. Humiliation is only complete when it's public. And I wanted the whole office to see the fall, so I announced a performance review meeting. Everyone was invited to watch as management discussed results. Samantha sat at the head of the table, trying to maintain composure as the numbers I'd collected painted her as incompetent, unreliable, and untrustworthy. She defended herself, of course, but every time she spoke, I cut her off with evidence. Her words dug her deeper. By the time it ended, she wasn't just an employee under review. She was a spectacle. The meeting ended with her suspension, pending further investigation. She left the room without looking at anyone. I stood there, watching her walk out, her heels clicking against the floor like a slow, defeated drumbeat, and in that moment, I knew I could end her completely, but instead I decided to give her time to think, to remember, to feel the walls closing in until she couldn't tell if the shadows were real or just in her head, because the next step would be the one she never saw coming. Her suspension gave me room to work. I made calls. I knew people now, the kind of people who could plant whispers in the right ears, who could tilt the scales without leaving fingerprints. I traced her personal accounts. She'd been living well above her means for years, dipping into her fiancé's generosity, paying for her designer lifestyle with maxed-out credit cards. Without his money, and without her job, she was dangling over an abyss, but I wanted her to jump, so I made her an offer, an email, simple, polite. Samantha, I understand you're in a difficult situation. I have a proposal that could clear everything up. Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m., in the boardroom, NH. She came. She looked smaller than I remembered, shoulders slumped, eyes dull, a faded version of the girl who once stood above me and asked if I was tired of being me. I slid a contract across the table. It stated, in formal legal terms, that she would resign voluntarily, forgo any severance, and sign a non-compete that would keep her from working in her field for at least 5 years. In return, I'd ensure no further action was taken against her. She stared at it, her jaw tight. This is career suicide. I leaned forward, my voice low, steady. No, Samantha. This is mercy. Her eyes burned, but I could see it, the calculation. The knowledge that she had no choice. Her signature was shaky, almost reluctant, but it was there, it was done. I thought that would be enough. But as she stood to leave, I remembered every laugh, every insult, every time she made me feel like less than nothing. Wait, I said. She turned. I smiled, the same way she did that rainy day all those years ago. Do you ever get tired of being you? Her lips trembled. But this time she didn't answer. She just left, and the world moved on. She disappeared from the industry. I heard rumors, debt collectors, a smaller apartment, friends dropping her one by one. I never checked in, never reached out. I didn't need to. The silence was enough. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that boy in the rain. The one with the broken backpack and the worn-out shoes. And I realize he's gone. I became something else, something she made, and now, so are you, because you've heard my story. So tell me, who laughed at you, and when you take your turn, will you show them mercy? Subscribe, because next time the story might be yours.